Emma's Error. One morning, Gordon was sizzling in the station. The first express was due out soon, and he was keen to leave. "Morning, Gordon." Gordon stared in disbelief. "Mr. Cole? Is that you?" he spluttered. Jem Cole stood on the platform, but instead of his grubby farming clothes, he was adorned in a suit and tie. "Looking very smart today, sir," Gordon smiled. "If I may ask, what's the occasion?" "I'm off to a vehicle gala on the mainland. They've asked me to speak about my restoration work." "A wise choice on their part," Gordon replied. "You've done wonders for our Trevor and Elizabeth." "All in a day's work," Jem blushed. "I'm a wee bit nervous, though. Much more comfortable in the country than the big city. But all the same, it is exciting." "And I'm certainly honored to be taking you there," smiled Gordon. "You'll be splendid, I'm sure." Jem laughed. "Well, if the best express engine on the island believes in me, nothing can go wrong." "Oh, that sounds like the guard's whistle. Best get to my seat." He waved goodbye as he dashed to the coaches. "What a lovely little getaway from Mr. Cole," Gordon thought. With a mighty whistle, he snorted out of the station and off towards the mainland. Jem had a wonderful time at the gala. He was welcomed with rapturous applause and was thrilled to see so many vintage machines still operating. Many familiar faces from Sodor were there. Even grumpy old George, who had never looked happier. He enjoyed meeting friends old and new, but all the same, he was glad to be coming home to Sodor. The morning after the gala ended, he was waiting in the station for Pip and Emma to take him home. Their driver, thrilled to meet Jem, stood shaking his hand vigorously. "Absolute pleasure to meet you, Mr. Cole," the driver beamed. "Did you enjoy the gala?" "Oh yes," he replied. "Great fun indeed. Lovely to see a passion for keeping those old vehicles running." "It certainly is," chuckled the driver. "Any desire to dabble in these kinds of machines?" He motioned to Emma with his thumb. "Oh, I don't think so," Jem replied. "There's just something about steam engines. The effort you put in to make them work just right never gets old to me. Great fun to get your hands dirty. You don't get that with buttons and wires," he finished with a laugh. Now, Pip and Emma liked the steam engines, but Emma was cross when she heard that remark. As Jem headed for the coaches, she began to fuss. "How rude!" she fumed. "To say we're simple! What an insult!" "Could you keep your temper in check just one time?" retorted Pip. "Mr. Cole is a lovely man. I'm sure he didn't mean any harm." "I won't stand for it. He needs a lesson on just what diesel engines can do." "Emma, behave," Pip said sternly. "He's a passenger on our express. Might I remind you we treat our passengers with respect?" Emma wasn't listening. As soon as the guard's whistle blew, she started with a jerk. "Easy!" called Pip, taking it back. "Buttons and wires! Buttons and wires!" Emma grumbled. "I'll show him! I'll show him!" Emma roared along the line, her engine pounding furiously. The noise echoed all around. People in the streets looked to the sky, thinking it was a thunderstorm. Pip felt worn out. She was doing her best to keep their speed in check, but her efforts were futile against Emma's temper. "I know we're a high-speed train," she huffed, "but this is ridiculous." "Don't dawdle! Come on!" barked Emma. "Watch your tone," Pip snapped back. "I'll not put my passengers at risk over your little charade." Pip held back, but the more she tried to slow him down, the crosser Emma became. She roared her engine, trying to pick up speed, until suddenly Emma found herself going slower and slower. "Ouch!" she cried. "What's happened?" The train came to a halt, black smoke billowing from her exhaust. The driver got out to examine. You've done a number on yourself now, he sighed, not surprised with the way you were carrying on. Ah, well, suppose all we can do is call for a fitter now. I hope you're happy, scolded Pip. You've shown Mr. Cole something all right. You've shown how headstrong you are. Emma, quite embarrassed, chose not to reply. They waited and waited, but the fitter didn't come. They couldn't have known he was stuck in a traffic jam trying to get to them. Time ticked on, and the passengers were getting restless. As the driver examined Emma, Jem came walking up. Mind if I take a look? He asked. Be my guest, replied the driver. You're more likely to have a solution than me. Emma scoffed, but kept it to herself. Jem took a look at the engine, but quickly realized he didn't have a clue where to start. Well, he stammered, if this tube connects here, and this wire goes there, At last, he gave it up. Truthfully, he blushed, I've not got a clue where to start. Oh, well, sighed the driver. I'll have another look. Appreciate you trying, Mr. Cole. Instead of going back to the coaches, Jem walked to the front of the train. I'm sorry I upset you, Emma. It's really my fault we're in this mess, and I can't even find a solution. Emma sighed. No, sir, it's my fault. I shouldn't have got so worked up. Pip was right. You meant no harm. Well, one thing's for sure. You certainly tested my knowledge more than old Trevor ever has, chuckled Jem. It's exciting knowing I can still learn new things at my age. At last, the fitter arrived, and in no time at all, Emma's engine was repaired. They sped off to the big station, and little time was lost. Thank you for getting me home, Emma, Jem smiled when they got back to Sodor. Tell you what, I'll go learn all I can about diesel engines. That way, I'll be prepared for next time. Very kind of you, sir, replied Emma, but you won't see me breaking down again. I do hope you'll ride with us soon. Pip and I will show you just what we can do. In the meantime, called Pip from the other end, you be sure to take care of Trevor. I don't want to hear about him breaking down anytime soon. Now that's a promise I can keep, laughed Jem. He gave a final wave, and the diesels watched as he left the station, bound happily for home.